Before today's video, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest videos. If you want to see a case or topic covered by Paranormally Listed, then go to criminallylisted.com and fill out the questionnaire under the Suggest a Case tab. Number 3. The Boqwish, 1918. It's the spring of 1918 in the dense and damp forest surrounding Kitimat Village in northern British Columbia. Village resident William Hall and a friend set out hunting, navigating the massive red cedars and Sitka spruce common to the area. The forest is tough to navigate, even for an experienced hunter, so William and his friend set up a system wherein they would pound a stake into the ground as a meeting place. Then they split up, loaded for bear. As William traversed the mucky ground heading along the shore of the Kamano River, he began to notice a strange, foul odor. No sooner had he passed into the clearing than he saw where the odor was coming from. 4 creatures congregated in the center of an overgrown trail. William grew terrified at the sight, so much that it didn't even occur to him to unshoulder his rifle as a defense. Instead, he turned and ran. But the forest was thick and muddy. He fell and hit his head, losing consciousness as he heard a collective stomping coming towards him. He awoke, he said later, lying on a large slab of rock on the riverbank. As he gained his bearings, he tried to sit up, but something prevented him from doing so. That's when, in abject terror, he realized that he was being held down upon the rock by the arm of one of the creatures. Turning his head, William saw that the same 4 creatures gathered around him. They were massive and covered in white hair, yet he said they had humanoid faces, capable of exhibiting human emotions. Terrified, William sputtered that he did not want trouble. He was only trying to hunt for food for his family and his people. It was then, William said, that the creatures seemed to back away, as if understanding William was not intent on harming them or hunting them. As they yielded, William climbed down off the rock and backed away into the forest. Once he believed he was at a safe distance, he scrambled, half running, half crawling, back through the forest, until he finally reunited with his companion at their beach canoe. William passed out into the canoe, exhausted, and didn't wake up for 4 days. When he finally did regain consciousness, he met with his village elders to describe what had happened to him. But the elders were all too familiar with the details of his encounter, according to the book Real Monsters by Brad Stiegler. What William had seen, they said, was a family of Boqwish, a species of forest creature that lived in harmony with the Kitimat as long as they could remember. William Hall said that the thing he remembered most about his encounter was the creature's noxious smell. The last thing he remembered was falling into the forest before waking up on the rock. In that time, he estimated that the Boqwish creatures had carried him to the riverside. But doing so, he said, transferred that horrible odor onto him. William Hall lived another 8 years in Kitimat. By that time, his grandson, Ken, told researcher Bill Oliver he was forced to sleep in a separate hut outside his home, because that offensive, rancid, sulfuric smell never left him. Bill Oliver traveled to the Kitimat village during the late 1900s to hopefully find out more about William Hall's cryptic encounter. It was then that he met a teenager named Brent Robinson who wholeheartedly believed Hall's story, because he had seen a Boqwish himself, although he called it what many people do, a Sasquatch. One night, Robinson said, he and a couple of friends were hanging out near the local soccer field when they heard the sound of gravel crunching in the dark. When they turned around, whatever was stomping along the gravel path seemed to notice them, because the figure started a flat-out sprint down the road. As it raced past the light posts along the road, One of Robinson's friends pointed out it blocked out each light bulb as it ran by. Only later did they realize the light posts were 8.5 feet tall. And it was while they measured the post that they noticed a lingering, foul odor in the air, the smell of rancid sulfur. Number 2. The Goatsucker, 1995. It was about 4.5 feet tall, with skin like a dinosaur. That's how 25-year-old Missile Negron described his encounter with a terrifying creature in his hometown of Canavasinas, Puerto Rico, in 1995. Negron told the Washington Post at the time he was hanging out on his back balcony at night when he saw something emerge from the darkness across the yard. It had bright red eyes the size of hen's eggs, he said, with long fangs and spikes down its back. But the Washington Post doesn't report on single accounts from random people. Negron's strange sighting was one of dozens that were turning up in Puerto Rico in the spring of '95. All over the island, people were filing complaints with the local authorities. A strange creature was attacking their livestock, leaving exsanguinated carcasses devoid of blood. El Chupacabra was the name given to the mysterious cryptid, with the literal translation of the name being the Goatsucker. In addition to this unusual saying, Negron also reported that his family's goat had been attacked, drained of blood, and disemboweled. Over the course of a year, more than 100 animals would fall prey to the Chupacabra, to the point where the government had to do something with the loss of valuable animals. This is not a joke, Canavasina's mayor, Jose Soto, told the newspaper. We're taking it very seriously. Soto added that his worst fear was that the creature, or more likely, creatures, would move on to humans when they ran out of animals on which to feed, and that, he said, would perhaps decimate the island's robust travel industry. Soto called upon citizens to help him hunt down the animal. In November 1995, the mayor and 200 of his heavily armed constituents combed the Val Yunque forest in search of the creature, using a caged goat as bait. While the posse didn't beg a Chupacabra, however, the mayor was satisfied that they had scared it enough so it wouldn't return. This was wishful thinking, because the attacks continued and no animal was spared. Ducks, geese, parakeets, chickens, sheep, pigs, and even pet cats and dogs fell victim to the creature. One veterinarian, while examining the remains of a family's Doberman, noted 2 knee puncture wounds near the neck of the dog, which had been drained of its blood. And the puncture wounds had been so deep they extended into the animal's brain. They weren't compatible with the bite of any animal I've ever studied, he said. With the new attacks came more witnesses of the Chupacabra. It stood on its hind legs and had bat-like wings underarms that ended in 3 sharp claws. One witness said it resembled a kangaroo without a tail. A cop near the outskirts of Val Yunque Forest said he blasted one creature with his .357, but it somehow survived the shot and fled over a fence. The blood samples were taken from the fence and sent to a lab for testing. The results came back that was an unknown origin. Speculation grew as to what the Chupacabra was, or at least what it was before. Theories abounded. Was it a pet lizard that was released into the wild and had grown and mutated? Was it a rhesus monkey that had escaped from a pharmacology lab? There was even some who believed the creature was some sort of alien. Perhaps the result of reports that said the thorny black spikes could change color in the blink of an eye. Whatever the real story behind the Chupacabra, sightings of the creature around Puerto Rico ebbed in the ensuing years. Until March of 2000, when reports surfaced of a similar kind of bloodsucker roaming the hills of Calama, Chile. Again, as in Puerto Rico, sightings seemed to come at once out of nowhere, with thousands of animals killed by the creature. The difference this time, however, was that cryptid researchers were ready, having geared up to study the Puerto Rican chupacabra when it vanished. Researchers collected scores of data, going as far as to extract a tooth found in the wound of a dead animal. The tooth was sent to Professor Jose Acosta of the Genetic Identification Lab at the University of Granada. But after a thorough analysis, Acosta announced his findings. The tooth was not from a human or any known animal, and the DNA from the fang could not be genetically identified. Number 1. The Leeds Devil, 1909. It was a blustery January night in Brandywine Village, Delaware. So when Police Officer Kane, known to his friends as Big Frank, saw an open black umbrella pressed against the fence, he thought nothing of it. Perhaps, he thought, as he walked his midnight beat, there was a name on the brawly, so he could return it to its rightful owner. As Big Frank approached the umbrella, he thought he saw it move, just a little. Hoping to stop it before the umbrella blew away, Frank reached out for it. And that's when the thing screamed. It was a howling scream, he later said, an angry scream, like a trapped loon. Then, out of the darkness, he saw a pair of glowing green eyes. But before he could get a better look, the object flung towards Officer Kane, enveloping him with wings. It was about the size of a calf and had the body of horsehide. Frank wrestled with the thing and used his considerable heft to push the object under his arm, taking it in kind of a headlock. As he dropped to a knee in order to subdue it, it wrenched back and forth, finally freeing itself from Frank's grasp. The creature, whatever it was, flew down West Street, fluttering past the front door of Mrs. J. McGuire, who gasped at the creature. "The devil just passed my door," she said aloud to no one in particular. Further on down the road, the creature touched down, leaving a single hoof print in the snow in front of the door of Mrs. Jones, who was amongst the dozen people who called the Evening Journal newspaper the next day to relate what they had seen. The creature had spent the night overturning garbage cans and feasting on yard chickens and neighborhood pets. But sightings of this so-called Jobbernosk ended in Delaware shortly after the night of January 20th, only to start again in Bristol, Pennsylvania a day or so later. It was there that local postmaster E.W. Minister told the newspaper he saw a strange creature flying around his property. When he went out to investigate, he found tracks in the snow, telling authorities that seemed like a cross between a kangaroo and a giant bat. A woman named Mrs. Ryan reported the winged creature had long, thin legs and a long neck with a dog-like head. The Philadelphia Zoo offered a $10,000 reward for its capture. The same week, in Trenton, New Jersey, City Councilor E.P. Whedon reported that he had also seen some kind of strange creature in his yard. But unlike in Pennsylvania and Delaware, the papers in New Jersey had a pretty good idea what they were dealing with: the Leeds Devil. The strange marsupial-like creature had been plaguing New Jersey since half a century before. During the 18th century, a local legend states that a woman named Mother Leeds, who lived in the Pine Barrens area of New Jersey, gave birth to her 13th child. But as the midwife went to swallow the child, it burst forth, killing the woman, before flying up and out of the chimney. It was said to stalk the New Jersey forests ever since. Now, 150 years later, seeing that had returned, the men of Trenton strapped on their 6-shooters. A meeting was called to decide what must be done. The decision was to find it, but not capture it for the zoo's reward. Instead, they were determined to kill it and to be done with the matter. Groups of men set out for the desolate Pine Barrens region of New Jersey, armed to the teeth, with hunting dogs in tow. As they stomped through the snow, they soon found telltale hoof prints that would go on for 100 yards, then vanish, and then appear again further down the trail, as if it would fly when it could. Heading deeper into the woods, however, one group of men found a problem. As the newspaper wrote, quote, "The hounds put on the trail refused to follow the tracks, and, with bristling hair and the picture of terror, they ran home," unquote. Unable to find the Leeds Devil, city councils in the area closed schools and businesses. Trolley drivers armed themselves against attack. But the creature was never seen again, at least back then. In the years since, there have been scattered sightings of some kind of creature around South Jersey. In 1993, a park ranger reported almost running over a 6-foot-tall creature with piercing red eyes and a deer-like head. A couple years later, a woman driving near Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, called the police when she spotted an armadillo-like creature on the highway. But nothing compared to the excitement of 1909. Still, the Leeds Devil, which also went by a number of various monikers over the years, they at least offer the Garden State one everlasting legacy. In 1982, the Colorado Rockies hockey team moved to Newark, and they were named the New Jersey Devils. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. If you did find it interesting, please make sure you subscribe. We'll have a new video about the paranormal every week. If you just discovered this channel, please make sure you check out our other channel, Criminally Listed. We have over 325 videos featuring bizarre but true crime stories. You can find it at youtube.com/criminallylisted. We also have a podcast about cold cases that were eventually solved called Criminally Listed Presents Into the Killing. You can find it on Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you find great podcasts. But that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.